I'm on a quest to finish every Far Cry game in the franchise, even if it costs me my sanity. Far Cry 2 almost cost me my sanity. It's not a bad game by any means, but it does have many problems, and there were many aspects that blew me away in my 16 hours or so of playtime. For 2008, the graphics still hold up wonderfully, from beautiful sunsets illuminating the lush foliage to river cruises that could have been in a documentary. Gunplay is fantastic, with an arsenal fit for a Lord of War, allowing the player free reign to customize their build and how they wanted to go about destroying everything in sight, because you do get to destroy everything in sight. Weapon noises add on to this feeling of satisfaction, with each gun having their own unique sound even when they jam. The general sound design is also well done, whether you're creeping through swamps, listening to wildlife, or just driving around the different biomes, it always felt audibly immersive. There are many small game mechanics and animations that blend into that immersion too. The buddy system gave alternative objectives to story missions, and getting rescued instead of loading a save was a neat touch. And despite being annoying having to take a malaria pill every 30 minutes or pull out a bullet with a multi-tool when at low health, it made those moments stand out. Your character goes through a lot, and the player experiences that in many distinctive ways. The setting is perfect for an open-world shooter, and one that isn't widely used in video games. Civil war is raging in an unnamed Central African nation shut off to its neighboring countries. Civilians are stuck between two warring factions propped up by an elusive arms dealer called the Jackal, and the situation is getting worse by the day. All of that sounds awesome, so what went wrong? Can I talk about it now? No? What about now? Still no? What if I say please? Well, I'm going to do it anyway. Far Cry 2 is a game that suffers a death from 1,000 different cuts. It's been a difficult retrospective to write because for every good thing about this game, there is something equally bad. There are three major issues: the narrative, the gameplay loop, and the pacing. Each has problems on their own and as a whole. There are two ways to look at the story, one I agree with and one that I think is too generous for what I experienced. From my perspective, the story is abysmal. Even with the interesting narrative setting Ubisoft decided on, it rarely, if ever, went beyond a surface level of thought. The characters you meet along the way have nothing unique or memorable to show, no emotional background or backstory. Whether it's the random warlords you take missions from, the journalist at Mike's bar, your buddies, or even the Jackal, and there is a caveat to that which I'll get to later, most of the interactions would have felt the same if a signage post was giving the missions. Now there is another lens of viewing the story, which I came across when doing research for the video. That lens is through nihilism, the philosophical belief that life lacks an ultimate meaning or value. Applying it to Far Cry 2, the player's actions are purposefully meaningless. The characters you meet are decisively empty and amoral, and no matter how much bloodshed or coups d'etats you initiate, nothing will change. This is an interesting perspective, but as I said before, I think it's too generous for what the game actually provides. It fills a tangible narrative void by giving non-existent character development and a bland story meaning through no meaning at all. And if there's truly no meaning to the player's actions or choices, what's the point of playing the game? This goes into Far Cry 2's second problem, the gameplay loop. There are maybe 3 or 4 missions within the whole game. Either kill some guy, intimidate some guy, sabotage infrastructure, or destroy a truck. At first this was satisfying because it felt new, but that quickly eroded. No matter if you were taking missions for the UFLL or the APR, the two rebel factions within the game, there was no distinction. It always boiled down to the same repetition. Go to town, get a mission, find your objective halfway across the map, come back for the next mission, rinse and repeat. And getting across the map is sadly not enjoyable. The game has two areas, one for the first act and one for the second. Both have a central hub where you can accept missions and then explore, so there's no variation to that concept. The fast travel system also suffers from this because actually getting to one is a hassle and probably would take you the same amount of time driving to town. Starting almost every mission from the center has you traveling long distances, usually with objectives far off in one of the quadrants of the map. You'll mainly be using cars in the first half of the game, but they all drive the same. I would have liked at least some differences in speed or durability because you cannot escape the patrols. Oh my god, the frickin' patrols. I am not joking when I say that you cannot go more than a minute driving to any destination without enemies spawning behind you or in front of you. You might be saying, oh, it's an open world game, of course there are enemies in the map. But it's more than that. Each encounter is the same. You're driving, an enemy car attacks, you have to exit your vehicle because they disable it, kill one or two enemies, repair your car, drive for another minute, and the same encounter happens again. I think I watched the repair animation for more time than there was actual dialogue in the game. At a certain point I figured out that it was just faster to take out enemies and use their car than repair my own. And yes, I did upgrade the cars later on and felt no difference. Maybe this would have worked better if when you did get stopped, there was something around you to explore, but for as beautiful as the map was, there was a lack of interesting points of interest. Yes, there were prototypes of strongholds from the next game, or guard posts, but what was the point to explore them? Taking out the enemies stationed at various locations was engaging at first, and I promise I will get into the good parts of this game, but everyone respawns, so there's no sense of map progression. The only progression stems from finding diamonds around the map to upgrade your arsenal, but when the main missions give you 20 to 30 diamonds, what's the incentive to search for cases that only yield 1 or 2? To summarize, you take one of 4 possible missions that requires you to drive 10 to 15 minutes, having to stop every other minute by the same encounter, then either blow up, intimidate, sabotage, or steal, just to drive back another 10 to 15 minutes with the same stoppages to accept the same mission, and well, now I'm getting repetitive. The third problem is pacing, and that will be easier to explain if we actually get into the game. Oh, there is a fourth problem too, the bugs, and I swear this game crashes more than Fallout New Vegas. Before Far Cry 2 starts, the player gets to choose between different mercenaries from across the globe. Does this have any bearing on your playstyle, outcomes, or experience? Nope. It does convey this internal conflict has an international audience, and there was the nice detail of foreign languages being spoken within the towns, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Whoever you choose, the game starts the same way with one goal: kill the Jackal, a notorious arms dealer selling weapons to both sides of the conflict. We get a scenic drive to Pala, the only town with a working hotel, and get the gist of the situation. Civil war has been raging between the UFLL and APR, leaving citizens stranded and foreigners rushing for the last flights out. You need a bribe to get past checkpoints, and armed convoys are patrolling the dusty roads. This is a great setup, especially this part where our driver tells us that the troops keep to themselves, and then we pass by the area they came from set aflame. Getting closer to town, we start getting symptoms from malaria, which, geez, we've only been here for like, what, 10 minutes? Regardless, it's implied that our character was sent by some shadowy organization or intelligence group, but they didn't give him the vaccine or medicine. Off to a great start. Slowly waking from passing out, we're introduced to the man himself, the Jackal.
The target's presence in the state continues to be a destabilizing influence. He's largely responsible for the recent influx of weapons into the country and clear violation of the joint signatory framework. His reputation as a dangerous arms dealer is well deserved. Orders are to terminate.
Wait, he looks oddly familiar. Side tangent for a second, Clint Hocking, Far Cry 2's creative director, did confirm the Jackal to be Jack Carver from the original Far Cry, which is pretty cool. I guess fighting Trigens and Kreiger from the first game really did a number on him. Anyways, the Jackal knows we're here to kill him, and instead of ending us, he quotes Nietzsche and spares our life. If you enjoyed this introduction to his character, you're out of luck, because this is one of like 5 times you'll see him. It kind of blew my mind how little our main antagonist is featured in this game, and now to that caveat I mentioned earlier. You can find audio tapes from the Jackal around the map that give you a bit more insight into the absent character. These audio tapes can range from how he smuggles the weapons in and his own fears to the state of the world and views on morality.
I'll tell you what's sick. People in the UK, in the US, fucking Canada, Sweden. They pay their taxes, and some remote piloted drone fires a missile into a public market to hit some warlord. Yeah, so maybe war doesn't happen for another 6 months, and the price of their gluten-free sorghum bread stays low. It's not sick to harm people. It's sick to bump off their crooks and dictators in protection of our interests, and then call it international justice.
Does it do enough to make him an intriguing villain? Sort of, and at least Ubisoft took a lot of feedback from this game and applied it to the third. Yet overall, I wish we saw more of the Jackal apart from his memoirs. Regardless, we're left dying of malaria, and the tentative ceasefire has imploded with fighting breaking out inside the town. The sound design is fantastic here, with gunshots and explosions echoing between buildings, and these moments really made you feel like you were in an active war zone. Eventually we get injured and pass out again, only to be saved by Carbonell, a UFLL lieutenant who wants us to work for him despite killing some of his soldiers back at the hotel. We're introduced to how the weapon carry system works, which at first I wasn't a fan of. You're allowed 4 gun slots, one machete, a primary weapon like a sniper rifle or shotgun, a secondary weapon which could be a pistol, or one special weapon like rocket launchers or machine guns. My first thought was that it would have been better if the player could choose 4 slots regardless of the weapon type, but as the game progressed I kind of liked how it made you think about what loadouts you were taking, especially when you unlock deadlier weapons. Now fully equipped with our starting gear, we get some more basic mechanics, how to repair a car, which you'll be doing way too much of, clearing our first safe house, and how to find diamonds around the map. Diamonds are the currency of the game and allow the player to purchase new weapons and upgrades for them, plus your character, at gun shops around the map. Not only is it fun to unlock an M249 machine gun or grenade launchers, but there is a mechanic linked with it. Guns degrade over time, leading to jams becoming more frequent with usage, and if you use one too much, they'll blow up into a million pieces. Out of all the nitpicks I've seen online, this wasn't terrible because it gave me the incentive to go back to the gun store either to buy or grab a new weapon. Another mechanic we're introduced to is the buddy system. Buddies will offer alternative ways of completing missions, and you'll get safe house upgrades by doing so. They also mention reputation, but I never understood what that actually did within the game, nor raising their history level. Completing buddy objectives during main missions didn't stop the repetitive nature of the task, since it still revolved around the 4 archetypes of missions. But there was one unique moment where you steal a truck and use it as a bomb, so there's that. Buddies are expendable, with a permadeath system which was cool, but nowhere does it tell you if they get down 3 times you can't save them. Rest in peace, Flora. Oh god, I haven't mentioned the bugs yet. If you didn't notice it before, this game can get finicky. Dialogue glitches where you had to stand in the right place for a sequence to complete, or physics glitches that reminded me of Morrowind. There was a lot of technical faults. After getting soft-locked out of some main quest lines because of these issues, I did go online and figured out that you just can't play this game above 60 FPS. Maybe they took that page out of Bethesda's book. Using VSync and an FPS cap did help the physics glitches, but it didn't resolve every issue. The crashes. So many crashes. Back at the bar, we meet Ruben, a freelance journalist covering the country's civil war, and gives us information on where to find malaria pills. He also introduces us to the Jackal's tapes, but it doesn't really help us with finding him. To get that information, we have to play both sides, so we always come out on top, thus taking missions from the UFLL and APR in a seemingly never-ending quest to destroy both groups. Seriously, I can't understand why both give us work if every other mission has us blowing up critical resources or murdering key figures. Alright, I feel like I've been bashing this game for the majority of the time, but there were reasons why I finished it. The gunplay is incredible, and I would lose myself in firefights in the best way possible. Enemies would flank and push you, making cover crucial to survival. The level design lent itself to diverse fights with so many unique areas. My favorite being fort levels with some great verticality, but even open areas like farms or fishing villages had a lot to offer. Yet it was disappointing that the best part of the game, the gunplay, felt almost too few and far between. Yes, you were getting stopped on the road and having to shoot enemies, but that wasn't satisfying compared to the bigger layouts and scenarios, which had varied outcomes and happened less often. Even doing the side missions felt like they phoned it in. Take for example weapon convoys. To unlock new guns, you needed to hunt down convoys around the map and blow up their truck. Sound familiar? It's the same repetitiveness, just with a better reward. Maybe cut half of those quests and make them different with a more sizable reward like a cache of guns rather than one or two. To be frank, Far Cry 2 as a whole game could have been better cut in half, focusing more on the missions themselves rather than how many missions there were. The malaria questline is the same. Take documents for refugees somewhere on the map, kill a couple of guys, get your medicine, and on and on. Hey, but the fire effects are cool. Seriously though, for 2008, the way the fire grows from the dry grass to the surrounding trees is eye-catching. I can't think of another game from this era that has something similar. Back to the story. Ruben gives us a call asking to meet with him and has dire news. Turns out killing lieutenants from both factions hasn't gotten us any closer to finding the Jackal or stopping the conflict, and the APR has launched an all-out offensive within the area.
They are still looking for you and the other foreigners as well. You've all been declared spies.
We're given a choice, either save the civilians back in Pala or our buddies at Mike's bar. I assumed my buddies would be able to handle themselves and chose the civilians. The church gets attacked, we take some shots to our chests and get knocked out again. Wait, is this Dying Light? Thus starts Act 2, and by golly, it's the same setup as the beginning of the game. Literally the same scenario, but this time we're lost in a sandstorm. We get our second interaction with the Jackal, who says killing the lieutenants of both sides hasn't helped the situation, and now the APR and UFLL are going to sow even more chaos. Who would have guessed? He does have some interesting lines about violence being a cancer, and that no matter anyone's actions, the void will always be filled by the same destructive repetition regardless of who's in charge. And this does play into that nihilistic perspective we talked about at the beginning of the video. But, and there's a big but, the Jackal himself was part of that cycle, and even though he's starting to change his viewpoint on the situation, he never takes responsibility for his own actions. This is why I'm kind of upset he doesn't get more screen time, because it would have made more sense if we saw why he was shifting his viewpoint rather than just hearing him do so sorta through audio tapes. And that's signing number 2 out of 5 for the Jackal, because of course, the conversation is cut short by a UFLL lieutenant asking us to kill the APR guy. Oh joy, back to the cycle. I am now going to condense the next 5 hours of gameplay into maybe a minute, for all of our sake. Snipe the APR guy, get ambushed 18 times by armed vehicles, repair vehicles, make it to the next town hub, talk to UFLL guy, meet a new buddy, protect his ship, which was honestly a breath of fresh air compared to the other segments. Except you have to repair the boat too, Jesus Christ. Protect boat, go back to town, meet malaria doctor, civil war breaks out again, go back to buddy's boat, protect boat, destroy weapons convoy, game crash. Oh god, how much time did I lose? Why is there no autosave? Should I just quit this game? Okay, they're saying I can't leave. Repeat last paragraph, go back to town, accept sabotage quest, sabotage set quest, APR doesn't care we killed half their leaders, accept quest. These guys have heat-seeking rockets? On and on and on. At least the world was beautiful. Game crash. All of this does culminate in a bit of a more interesting narrative where the APR and the UFLL finally want to make a deal. In an act of good faith, the APR wants us to deliver a cache of diamonds to the UFLL leader, but as we arrive, the place is burning up and the UFLL guy is dead. It was this moment that reinforced my thought on if the developers just cut half the missions and made the remaining ones a little bit more, I don't know, interesting with environmental details and suspense, this could have been a great game. Oh shit, it's the Jackal.
It's you. If you're here to help rubber stamp that ceasefire, you're too late. A peace agreement, what a joke, a comedy act.
I still don't understand his motivations, as he chastises the player for wanting to broker the peace deal, and I assume was the one that killed all these people. It's just weird after the last interaction we had with him all about violence as cancer, that he still perpetuates the exact actions he was talking against. He goes further in saying he's just going to murder both sides and will help him. What's going on? Weren't we supposed to kill this guy? Our character wakes up in a prison, bashes through his cell wall, and I was really hoping for a stealth portion since all our guns had been taken, but no, just walk right out. The power vacuum is widening as the UFLL officers want other UFLL officers dead, and same goes for the APR now that the ceasefire is off the table. At least there is a semblance of choice because you can spare the target or at least his aide, but that didn't seem to do anything remarkable. Halfway through the leadership reset, we meet up with Ruben, who says that he's a pseudo-prisoner now and believes he will be killed when brought to an airport where refugees have been trying to leave. The conversation has some merit, since Ruben exclaims that he wishes he could be us, acting against the destructive forces occupying his country, no matter how irrelevant our ramifications are, compared to just reporting in his notebook. This was important because both sides of the spectrum, violence and non-violence, have no sway on the situation. Wait, am I slowly agreeing with the nihilism lens? Oh, another kill target mission. Again and again, Far Cry 2's narrative could mean more if it didn't feel like 99% of the game was the same 20 to 30 minute sections on loop. And thus starts the final act. Ruben calls us to the airfield where he discloses that the UFLL and APR have accepted a sinister truce. Instead of keeping to their sides, they've decided to join forces, and their first order of business is to massacre prisoners that are rioting, spurred by the Jackal's influence. Damn, I really wanted to fly that plane. I guess I have to wait for another Far Cry. Arriving at the prison, no one is there, except for our boy, the Jackal. That sounds so stupid. Arriving at the prison, no one is there except for the Jackal. He explains that many have started the journey towards the border crossing and needs us to find his cache of diamonds along the route to bribe the border guards to ensure safe passage. The game couldn't help itself though, as the Jackal also wants us to kill the two new leaders of the conjoined rebel groups. So it's the same frickin' mission we've been doing for 16 hours. Speaking of missions, weren't we supposed to kill this guy? Whatever happened to that? I know we're playing a voiceless, non-existent character, but come on, it's like they didn't matter at all. Does anything really matter at all? This last portion is completely linear, fighting more baddies through a narrow swamp, taking out leaders who somehow just let us through even though we've killed every one of their predecessors, and honestly, I couldn't wait to be done with this game. But there's one more job. The Jackal gives us a choice, either arm dynamite to blow up the canyon, stopping the unified rebels from attacking the border crossing, or make sure the border guards get the diamonds to allow safe passage for the refugees. There is a catch. No matter which one you choose, the Jackal wants you to end your life after crossing the border or die to the explosion. Why? To cut out the cancer, of course, and some existential nonsense. I had to laugh that he even says he would do both if he had the time. Sir, didn't you say the explosion would kill the person who detonated it? How would you then go to the crossing? You know what, never mind. This felt like it was supposed to mean something much more than it actually did. That by helping the refugees and not surviving is some holy martyrdom that would absolve all that harm the Jackal has done and in turn everyone we've maimed and murdered. But does it? It kind of is the easy way out, not taking accountability and being done with it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of this, because maybe the malaria pills I've been taking were crazy pills. Also, if you like the video, please leave a like, it helps the channel a lot. Even worse is that after choosing the diamonds route and handing them over, the Jackal detonates the bomb and we get a text scroll explaining the ending. Not even a narration from Ruben, who we see alive. Great that the border crossing worked. The APR and the UFLL United Front failed, plunging the country into more anarchy. Ruben's journalistic coverage, if you can call it that, doesn't get traction, so he writes about it on his WordPress, and what the fuck? The Jackal's body was never found? Did he just lie to us about dying in the explosion and kept doing Jackal things? Whatever happened to our character? There's no walking into the sunset with his gun drawn to his head, or deal with the border guard exchanging his life for the life of others. This was a terrible ending to a game that went way past its welcome. Maybe it's different viewing everything in 2026 compared to 2008, but even The Saboteur, another open world game I covered on this channel last year, had a cohesive narrative and ending. So yeah, that's Far Cry 2. I know a lot of people like this game, and I truly want to hear from you how you didn't lose your mind to constant ambushes, repeating missions, lackluster story, and crashes galore. I will say that what kept me coming back every time from those crashes or bugs was the hope that it would get better, that I could have fun with the fantastic gunplay or explore more varied points of interest. But those things never came to fruition. Anyways, thanks for taking the time traveling with me to the heart of disappointment. If you enjoyed the video, again, please leave a like, it helps me out a lot, and as always, I hope you're doing well. Until next time, all the best. Now can I leave? Oh, god damn it.